Welcome, everyone, to another broadcast of The Soul of the Everyman on the ArtistFirst Radio Network. All past shows are available in podcast form. You can pick them up at ArtistFirst.com. We welcome your email questions and comments to DJ at ArtistFirst.com. And now here they are, Michael and Margaret Lyons.
Thank you very much, C-Man, and peace out. That's stupid. I'm Michael Lyons.
And I'm Margaret.
He's Margaret, and I'm stupid.
No.
And she's kind. And but it doesn't matter because even though I'm stupid, you're here to keep everything all nice and sane.
Oh my!
Already getting the look. And tonight we are going to talk about the sane. We are going to talk about keeping things nice and sane in one way. We're going to talk about peace.
Yes.
We haven't talked about peace in a long time. It's actually been well over a year. It's almost 2 years. It's about a year and some odd. But this was a cool quote that sort of popped up, I guess.
Out of the unknown.
Out of the unknown. Out of the great unconscious all. And I'll read it because that way I can sound smart.
You are smart.
Yeah. That's what I say about you being kind. So, peace. It does not mean to be in a place where there is no noise, trouble, or hard work. It means to be in the midst of those things and still be calm in your heart.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that echoes, a Kipling poem, which is beautiful, which is to
be a man.
Yes, but it's called. That's the one. See how stupid I am. It echoes the Kipling poem exactly, and then you'll be a man, my son. But the line that I'm thinking about is, to be surrounded by a sea of troubles, and in essence,
to keep your head while all those around you are losing theirs
and blaming it on you.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, I wish I remembered these things. You see, the prediction that I was going to be really stupid tonight is coming true.
Oh my!
But the echoes of the Kipling poem and also echoes of to, in essence, have that inner centeredness, have that inner calm, which is often what we speak about when we're talking about, in essence, coming to the still place within oneself using either a meditative technique or just grounding, in essence, finding the center point and then not allowing yourself to be moved off of it. This phrase here, when it talks about the fact that it doesn't mean that you aren't going to have trouble. To be able to be centered and in peace, it may not look like it. You may, from the outside, look as though you're within the throes of the maelstrom. I'm reminded also of our experience with Christopher and many, many others who have gone through similar things. You are taken completely out of your element. You are thrust into a situation in which you have no control, perhaps, where there is trouble, where you are beset on all sides, and have, through no fault of your own, you've been put into a situation where you have no peace, and maybe you do have to do something incredibly hard. You have to perform a hard task. And in those situations, it's quite easy to throw up your hands and chew holes in the rug and to feel, beleaguered and to feel ill at ease and to have no peace. And yet, in in the midst of that storm, because I would almost say, because you almost have no choice. Once you've been sheltering from a storm, and even a physical storm, you reach a point where you have to come to a center. You have to come to a still place, and the only way you're going to get through it is being there. Otherwise, you'll literally be destroyed.
Yes. I think we should define peace at this point.
I like that.
Because it means different things to different people according to what they've experienced in their lives. And in general, when you say keeping the peace, people believe you're talking about not making any point of conflict, no stressors, no fight, no. Keeping the peace means that you'll not start anything,
or even you'll go out of your way to, in essence, make sure to diffuse everything and to separate the you're there as the peacemaker, if you will.
Well, see, that's the thing. People believe that peace means no conflict. Okay, and that's not what we're discussing at this point. We've said this many times, and it's no surprise to anyone that life is full of turmoil. There's always problems, always. And you are not going to agree with every single person that you meet. So keeping the peace at that point is that underlying agreement that, okay, we have our differences, but we are not going to explode the situation into so much tension that everyone around us is like heading for the hills. And going back to what you were saying about a peacemaker, people believe that it's just diffusing the situation that particular way. But a true peacemaker allows the calm in their being, their heart, to spread out to all parties involved. Okay. The second part of the lines that we put up, it means to be in the midst of those things, which is trouble or noise or hard work, and still be calm in your heart, understanding that you carry that calmness within you, and it cannot be diverted by things people may say, things people yell at each other, or do, or gestures, or throwing, or any kind of conflict that may occur because you're holding a different viewpoint.
Go ahead.
So, to be calm in your heart means that the conviction is unchangeable for you.
Yeah. I'm reminded of also a practical application that you tell me about. When you're driving, and oftentimes driving is a situation where you're not much at peace. You always you said this to the kids, but you would practice it. You'd kind of make an oasis, a bubble of calm. You would project a calmness around you, around the car. And, when what you see on the road, especially these days, is a lot of, let's say, aggressive or maybe thoughtless or careless actions on the road in the part of driving, and to in essence diffuse that. You hold that calmness, that bubble.
Right. To be able to, because if you're driving, one of the things you're supposed to be aware of is all the other people on the road. And lately, it just doesn't seem to be happening. Truth. You see drivers, and they're riding around in their own bubble, but it's very, very concerned with what happens to be unfolding for them. And
Right.
when they look at other people, they think of them only as obstacles, that you're in my way, as opposed to, well, you're another vehicle on the road that we all have to navigate together, like a school. I find it fascinating because, schools of fish or flocks of birds don't seem to have the problems we as humans have on the road.
Well, I agree with you there, but there's this. I think there's also, to use again sort of an experience that people have had. There are shows that are done where people interact with animals, and they interact with them in such a way that their calmness, their energy, is the projection, is the communication pathway. So this energy, you can see it in the opposite too. If you get upset and somebody drives and blasts by you, right? And you say, this guy's crazy, I'm going to go after him too. So now you're both driving crazy. Or, somebody lays on the horn and so you do. So the energy, the response or the reactive energy engenders more anger or engenders more chaos. That calmness bubble, that calm in your heart, is an energy which isn't just within the heart. It projects outward. And it has an immediate and apparent and tangible effect. Whether it's you enter the room or you bring this energy into the room, and the situation, which may have been spinning out of control or on the verge of doing so, can be affected by your energy. You and all of us, I don't mean you particularly, but all of us carry this ability to communicate at that level, at the level of being. Because this, when we're talking about here, peace and calm in your heart is a being state. You have to be calm. You have to be in your heart. And then there's the ability to sense that is at a subconscious level. Both cases, the ability to sense when somebody is bringing chaos into a situation is at a subconscious level. You feel that this person is a threat. You feel that this person is unstable, and it may spin the whole thing out of control. But the opposite is true, and I think in some ways more powerful.
Right. It's a conscious choice to be peaceful, even when people around you are doing impulsive or unpredictable things. You choose that calm to be surrounding yourself, whether it's just you physically or the car that you happen to be driving. But it's understanding at that sublim level that the minute you get movement, and I don't think people are aware of this, but the minute you get a group of people moving, there is an unconscious unity that happens. And you begin to, especially if they identify as, we.
They become a unit, a group.
Right. And it's all sublim at that point. But I think it's something that we all do, because when you meet someone, your first impression has to deal with what kind of vibe are you getting off of this person. And that's a phrase that has become very familiar to people. This person's sending off this vibe. Before, it had to do with presentation and manners, and is this person shaking my hand a certain way or speaking or meeting me in the eye, this whole thing of you're supposed to do this, that, or the other thing to present as a normal person.
Yes.
But now, especially with all the masks that we had to do, and all the people aren't supposed to be touching each other, or it's at a distance. So that concept of being able to perceive the vibe of the person becomes even more important. Because all you're seeing is like the eyes are above the mask, or what are they actually doing, and how do they do it? It's shutting down or not taking as much into account by what you're taking in with your eyes than what you are taking in with your gut.
Yeah, or your heart. I think that's very important. To the extent that you reduce the verbal or the mannerisms, the manners. You said you talked about the social mores. A person can play themselves off as they can dress well, and they can do all the things you said, meet your eye and shake your hand, but yet they can be very, all this can be a mask, of a different kind of mask, a chimera. You can get the vibe from them if your heart is open, if you're looking not at the external, or not at the, oh, this one has this possession, or this one is dressing such and such a way. So you take those things out of the picture. If you strip down your perceptions and use the heart, and especially as we said before, it's this resonance. If you are carrying calm in your heart, you both project it, and you can resonate with those who are providing you the similar type of vibe. Similar in the same way, if they're not, if your peace is your projection of peace and your perception of peace is disturbed by someone, no matter how they look or how they act, you get a weird vibe. Okay, that is subliminal. It's at the being state. Your being is disturbed. It's like feeling the ripples in a pond.
Right. I would say that it is a disturbance as opposed to unseating the calmness that you carry.
Well, I agree. I'm saying that this works both ways. You can both project this calm, but it can also be used to perceive. If you're calm, you also understand that that's the being state, and you can feel when when there's an attempt to disturb it. And you have a choice at that point. You can say, well, let me see if I can diffuse this. I can project into it. But you also have the ability to say, this person carries a darkness. This person carries a disturbance. And I may not want to interact with them whatsoever. It may be, too much of a drain on my resource, or I may at least find them objectionable. A sort of an offense to my inner calm, to my inner being, and you should listen to that voice. You should listen to those heart promptings, because that's a truer communication.
If you look at something and it says, "Is this going to trigger me?" I think that is a valid question. Because when you realize that there is a lot of reaction programmed into you, and you know yourself enough to know when certain triggers are in the environment around you, it becomes a very important question. Will this interaction trigger me in some way? And you're consciously choosing at that point. I do not wish to give up the calm that I hold, because the minute you're triggered, you lose that calm.
Mm.
And it's not that important for me to interact with this person. So you choose. That's the conscious choosing point.
Yeah. So, to go back to our statement, this statement is half of what peace really is. You do have to practice this. You have to be calm, be the calm in the storm. You can be it, but you can also project it. You can calm the storm, and you can also perceive with it. You can receive what is coming in around you. You can feel a person's vibe by saying, well, this one, I can feel the peace coming from them. I can feel the centeredness. I can feel their being, and say that this resonates with my being. Or another person, another being, who is, to put Tolle into this a little bit, this person is in the fully form-based egoic state. They're the furthest thing from calm. They're constantly in a mode of being, let's say, triggered, or they're constantly in a mode of having, of both engendering and projecting their disquiet to all those around them. You may not be able to pierce their this wall of disquiet, but you can maintain your own calm and avoid or disengage. Don't let them draw you into that reactive state.
Right. You don't need to be participating in that drama.
Mm.
I mean, literally, you look at it and go, okay, this is a drama.
Yeah.
This is a story that's going on, and you could see it. You could see the rewind going, and they're replaying it all over again.
Mm.
So you choose at that point. So you ask your heart, okay, what should we do with this?
Right.
Okay. Should we just nod and walk away? Or is there something that can be, is there some help that God's hand wants to touch this person just for a little bit and then off you go? Or are you supposed to just be bringing that energy right to that moment in that point in time, and then that's all that's required? It's you really must be in the present moment at that point. You must be completely in the now, as Tolle would say, to know exactly what need be done. Sometimes a person's drama is a replay of old karma, and you can't really do anything about it. It's like, okay, what was it, the last session we had was, is that so?
Exactly.
Oh.
Exactly. That, it's a lovely, as we said, a lovely koan, but it is an outward verbalization of this exact, this exact statement here. Holding the calm in your heart, holding peace in your heart, that being state, allows you to say without emotion, without judgment, without any kind of engagement, is that so?
Right.
Because you don't in any way disturb your inner peace. And you may, in fact, through that utterance, pierce through some of the drama, perhaps even all the drama, but let's say some of the drama, which is coming towards you. Okay, this is to verbalize that story. The situation, the noise, the trouble, the hard work, comes to the door of the monk, of the Zen master. He maintains peace. He maintains calm in his heart. so nothing of this touches him, and then the utterance is the projection of that back to the trouble. The trouble can be a person, or the trouble can be a situation, or both. You utter it, either verbalize it or think it. Is that so? You stay in the present moment. You don't fly into the past. You don't fly into the future. You don't engage with the ego. You don't start messing around. It merely calls it back to peace, and it calls it back through the eyes of the heart, which are the truth. The truth of the situation is.
Right.
Is that so?
Is that so? Yeah. Which reality are you participating in this moment?
And I don't want to take anything away. It's very. It takes a good amount of practice to be able to do that in the moment, because these things, noise, trouble, hard work, marker, they come at you with no warning. Somebody appears on your doorstep, banging on the door, accusing you of in essence, impregnating their daughter. Well, you might start to react. You're like, who the hell are you? It's just so it's very, to be there requires a certain calm, and you said it earlier, and I'll say it again. You have to be in the moment, and you have to give yourself the breath. There's an instant. There's a gap. The trouble comes upon you, and if you're not careful, you think there's no gap, because if you run to meet it, there is no gap. If you remain still, the trouble comes upon you. You perceive it, but it has not yet moved you. You have the moment of, do I react or not? It's a very small gap. If you run to meet it, you're reacting, almost reacting before, you're being moved before it even touches you, because you perceive and react and engage and use your own energy to bring the trouble to you.
Mm-hmm.
You grab it and pull it in.
Yeah. You engage, you become a receptive point. Mm-hmm. But that probably harkens back to the concept that when people are moving together in something, it creates that that link, that
binding,
a relationship of some kind. But it doesn't mean that you're in a good relationship, all right, or you're moving in harmony. It means that you've decided that you're going to interact with each other on this level of stress and conflict,
right,
as opposed to a harmonious one. So that also brings it back to, you can choose a level that you want to interact with another.
Yeah, and that is a practice part, and I think you can find this in the writings of the Dalai Lama. You can find this in the writings of many others. The practice point is to hold yourself inviolate, even in the moment of the attempt to engage. You have to give permission.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
You have to allow. Our being states are entirely our own. You are an entity, inviolate, perfect. When something comes to you, you must allow it in. You have the ability to say simply no. And at that point, nothing can enter you. This is the superpower. I think the superpower that we'll do. Let's take that thought though and go into the break, because this is where peace is defended. So let's go defend peace. Listen to a few commercials. We'll come back on the other side. And we'll talk more about peace.
The wait is over. First Blood, Book 2 of the Blood series is out. Your favorite bad boy thief Dev is back, and the beautiful and deadly Trey is right there with him. She is sharp, sexy, and full of surprises. Their adventures continue as a new power arises to threaten the world. The heart of creation is under attack, and time is definitely not on their side as they battle against their enemies' undead hordes. Can they unlock the hidden power that can defeat him, or will his forces draw first blood? Get all 3 installments in the series. Book 0, It's in the Blood. Book 1, Destroyer's Blood, and the new release, Book 2, First Blood, today. Available in ebook and paperback format on Amazon, Kobo, Apple, and most other fine e-tailers.
Rick Riordan fans, love mythology with plenty of action and humor? Destroyer's Blood is for you. The new fantasy novel by award-winning author Michael Lynes is Book 1 of the adventures of Dev Kalian, the Blood series. Follow Dev and his magic sword Betrayer as they are suddenly attacked and forced to return to Olympus to fight in a war they want no part in. The world of men and gods is about to be destroyed by Zeus's ancient foe, and only Dev and Trey can stop him. The conflict never stops, and the amazing twist will have you on the edge of your seat. Act now while the ebook is on sale for only 99 cents. Destroyer's Blood is available on Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, Kobo, and fine e-tailers everywhere. And while you're there, get the free prequel, It's in the Blood, available for a limited time.
Hi, this is Hannah Ruth from the band Wild Hum. Check out our new Americana Soul CD, Wild Hum, at our website, wildhummusic.com. And you are listening to the ArtistFirst Radio Network. Thank you.
The Fat Man Gets Out of Bed is the latest book from Michael Lynes, the award-winning author of There is a Reaper. Featuring 13 original stories, this wide-ranging collection has everything. Forbidden love, gods versus demigods, weird invading aliens, sexy seductive artificial intelligence, and unusual passion between the living and the dead. All set amidst fantastic worlds of pain and loss and boundless joy. From the sublime to the macabre to the bittersweet, The Fat Man Gets Out of Bed will leave you breathless with laughter, brimming with tears, trembling with suspense. Available now on Amazon.com, Google Play, iTunes, Kobo, and fine e-tailers everywhere.
There is a Reaper is the story of 5-year-old Christopher Aaron and his life-changing struggle with leukemia. Winner of both the Indie Bragg Medallion as well as the reader's favorite silver medal for memoir, There is a Reaper has more than 100 Amazon book reviews and a 5-star rating. It has been described as life-changing, spiritual, a must-read. Just released on Audible and iTunes, this memoir is also available in paperback and on Amazon Kindle for only 99 cents. Get your copy of this life-changing memoir today.
Thank you for joining us on The Soul of the Everyman. Back to your hosts, Michael and Margaret Lynes.
Thank you very much, Z-Man. Tonight we were talking about peace, and I think as we went to the break, we hit upon something interesting. Your being. Okay, let's just go back and define a couple of terms. You are a being. We are all beings. We are a consciousness which has a body, which has a soul, which has all these things which we call, ourselves, our appearance. But the being that is you is what is able to both project energy, to accept engagement, and yet it has this amazing superpower. You have the free will and the choice to say no. And you get to exercise that choice really constantly. But when you are beset, when something comes upon you, when it looks as though trouble is in the room, and it's heading in your direction, don't accept it in one sense. Don't run to meet it. This is a confusing point, Mark, and I'll just put it out there because this is what people say. People say, well, you accept the situation, and you say that's reality. Yes, completely. You don't deny reality. That's a bad thing. Don't deny reality. Reality is there. Reality happens. Here comes trouble. You don't run to meet it. You don't be trouble. You don't consume trouble. You don't accept trouble in. You say, yeah, it's reality. There's trouble. But my being, my consciousness will not be part of. It will not consume and dissipate and engage and grab onto and hold tightly and dearly and identify with trouble. You say, trouble is here.
Right.
I am still an inviolate being. Trouble will be here. I will be calm. Trouble will go away. I will still be calm. I will still be me. I will be. But the moment you have, when trouble comes and you feel as though you should react and you feel as though you should run to meet it, you have to take that moment, that instant, and say, is that so? Or just simply, no. No, it's not going to make me different. It's not going to change me. My being is not going to grab on to trouble. You may completely act in reality. You may defeat, you may defend, you may project, you may do all these things, but don't be the trouble.
Well, when the trouble surrounds you, when you see it coming up on the horizon, and you're just looking at it going, yep, there it is.
There's trouble.
It's coming my way. Okay, that's interesting. To continue observing it as the trouble approaches, because there is the interesting part, because some people, all they do is focus on the trouble that they're seeing, and it becomes, they narrow their viewpoint so that the only thing they're absolutely seeing is trouble, as opposed to understanding that the trouble is coming at you through a field. There's a lot of other things within that field. Yeah. So to maintain perspective, not to narrow your viewpoint so the only thing you see is a trouble that is a-coming. It's something that is approaching. You acknowledge it, but many times it doesn't really land on you. It goes somewhere. And to be able to observe it and see exactly where it places itself in that moment of now allows you the space. This is maintaining space when there's trouble trying to surround you. You maintain space and you see where it belongs in a broader perspective.
Oh, that's very good. Could you elaborate on where it belongs? That's very good. I like that.
Well, if you've narrowed your viewpoint to the point where it's the only thing that exists, you've lost perspective.
I would say you've become trouble.
Well, you are focused in on it, and then you can step into it. Yes. Maybe that's the best way. When it's actually coming somewhere near you, you make the move to step into it.
Exactly.
As opposed to just observing. And when you actually see where it is in the broad scheme of things, where it belongs in that moment of now, you cannot lose yourself in the trouble because you see where it belongs in the broad scheme of things. And it doesn't, you don't lose the calmness in your heart because you are observing. You only lose that when you lose perspective of where that belongs.
I mean, I love this analogy because, in essence, trouble is coming. I'm going to use a sort of a different way of looking at it. Trouble is a dog leaving on the sidewalk, and you are walking along the sidewalk, and you see it. It's right in front of you. You have the choice to stop, or the choice to observe and walk around. But when you see it and you say, oh, this always happens to me, there's always trouble in my life, I am the trouble, you are basically picking up your figurative foot and squishing it down into it and just wiggling your toes around because you are engaging. And yes, it will get on you, it will get in you, it will pervade the atmosphere around you. You will carry it forward with you because you have, by calling it in, you have accepted a definition of you which is not so. You are not trouble. But by calling it in, you invigorate, you put your energy into trouble, and you grab some of it and you carry it along with you. And you let it disturb your peace and your calm.
And spread it around.
And you spread it around, this is a wonderful analogy because here you are tracking trouble around and spreading the smell and the badness of trouble because you engaged. It got on you, but it got in you.
You decided to take a step towards it.
Yeah.
When you could take a step around it.
Yeah. And people will say, well, I didn't mean to do that. Well, yes, of course, at one level, you don't mean to. But the problem is that in feeling that you must, that when you see trouble, you have to run towards it. You have to go engage it. You have to come, in essence, like you said, narrow your focus all the way down so you're concentrating immediately on the trouble. You don't just observe anymore, you engage. And so you without meaning to, you step in it and you kind of wallow around in it. And we all know people like that. They literally find trouble.
Yeah, they seem to enjoy that.
They would say no, but it seems that they do because they literally look for trouble, or they literally throw trouble at other people, to spread the trouble around.
Yeah. That's when you have to find out. Well, actually, that's when you know what's in their heart. Because if you are holding that center point of stillness or calmness, you will step around it.
Or stop.
Or clean it up.
Clean it up, yes, but yeah.
But that's my point. It reveals what is in a person's heart in that instant. And what is in your heart is always revealed in that instant of decision. And people don't seem to understand that. This is where your motivations rise to the surface. And I think in the times we're living in, that is becoming more and more apparent for people. What is this person's motivation for doing that or trying to engage me in this? And the motivation is just, what is it that's in their heart? What is driving them? Why are they doing what they're doing? And those questions are the things that rise to the surface whenever you are in times of trouble. So that awareness, it's an indicator that your awareness is rising up. In other words, when you want to find someone's motivation for something, you automatically begin to widen your vision in order to take into account what's going on and where this trouble happens to be in this moment in time.
There's an important point here. I like what you're saying, but there's an important point. People do the opposite thing that people do all the time. Say, of course I'm trying to do that. I know exactly why they did that. That's the storytelling part of it. That's engaging too. If you look at somebody comes at you with trouble and you say, I know they are always doing this and this is why they're doing it and they always wanted to get me. You see that you've stepped in it. You're in it. What Margaret is saying is that you observe and you don't engage. You don't look you don't try to ascribe their motives or describe their motives. What you say is you observe. You say, well, here comes trouble. Rather than engage, we put our is that so barrier up or the no barrier up, and we observe. And when we broaden our view, we see more. We see, well, trouble didn't just appear out of nowhere. Trouble was coming for some period of time. And trouble isn't trying to actually affect me. Trouble has another agenda. You can actually discern, because reality is discernible through this lens of, is it so? Is it real? The one that you make up inside your head about how, well, this one's just like my uncle, and no. That one that's you've accepted it all in, and you're saying I, and this, and me. That's not motivation. That's story time. So be careful. There's a fine point there. I know exactly why they did it. If you're saying I know exactly why they did this, story time. Okay, story time. If you're saying, let me observe and see the reality and watch this person who may be completely unconscious, watch them and see, why are they the carrier of trouble? Why are they the conveyor of trouble? Don't engage, though.
Yeah, no, it's understanding that it's again going back to the quote, the calm. Be the calm in your heart. Understanding that the minute you stick I in there, there is no calmness. There is no peace. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah. Because the interesting thing, again, we always say this, language informs, I is the identity thing. I am. Once you put I into things, you're identifying with them, and identifying with trouble is engaging in trouble. It's grabbing on to trouble. And then trouble, once it's inside, you can start to redefine you. It can start to say that, people say, well, I'm not my cancer. Well, that's good. You're trying to push it back out. But when you say, I am cancer, I am this, I am that.
I am my ailment. I
am my ailment. You fragment it. You're no longer a being. You're a bunch of I-ings. And the I-ings are all in conflict with each other, and they're being controlled perhaps by another, by a trouble, by a situation, by an event. You're reacting. You're all in it. You're all out there. You're no longer in your being state. Your being still is there, but you're now dissipating all kinds of energy and bleeding all kinds of nonsense into this chimera, into this story time. The calm is also an invulnerable fortress, because you can't, the is that so or no is absolute. If you choose not to engage, nothing can make you. The power that we have, that we give up so easily, is the power to say, no. No, I will not. I will remain a being in the moment and not run off into your fantasy or create one of my own.
Well, it is being in that awareness where you absolutely are just residing in the awareness. And not, because we talk about, well, you choose this, you choose that. Well, understanding that has got to be a conviction in your
Mm.
heart.
Mm.
It's not a reflection of your ego saying, well, I choose what I'm going to do, as opposed to I am in this because I am more than what I think or what emotion happens to be flitting through me. I am much more.
You are more than any conceivable trouble.
You are more than anything you could possibly imagine. Isn't that an amazing thought? Because people believe that the only way I'm going to know myself is if I keep talking to myself about how good I am or I'm not good on this. I'll judge how good I am or I'm on. So you get this tight little circle going.
Very much so. The ego talking to the ego.
Right. And you make yourself crazy. You're making so many stressors in that moment that your own noise is drowning out any kind of peace that you are trying to put in your heart or trying to be. And it's only when the ego is worn out, you've got to come to the end of yourself. This is what it means to come to the end of oneself. You've had enough of you.
And the coming to the end of self, again, the problem with these words, with the I, the self, and all these things, is we use them for different things. Coming to the end of self is coming to the end of the ego self, the engaged, troubled self. You come to the end of that and realize that it is completely and totally contained and is only a small part of the being that is actually you. And the being that is actually you can choose not to let itself be limited to the ego. That the ego comes to the end of its own self and realizes that, wow, there's a whole bunch of things out there, and maybe I should shut up. But
does it ever?
It never does. The ego is the ego's hands and the ego's ears and the ego's eyes and the ego's motives are all those storytelling, grabbing trouble, listening to trouble, making trouble impulses. If you stay down there or stay within that little sandbox, trouble will find you and define you. You will always be in a non-peaceful, chaotic state. You will always find that the noise distracts. The hard work is always around you, that nothing ever goes right, that it's always about me, blah, blah, blah. These are the things you have to come to the end of and realize that all of that was a little ball of distraction. That all of it can be, you choose and say, no. And then it will grow less. You don't feed it. It fades. It becomes smaller and smaller. You suddenly realize that this thing was attempting to occupy all of you without ever being able to. It could never actually do it, but it was attempting to, like a magician flying its hands in the air, saying, "Look at me! Look at me! Look at me! Look at me!" The ego becomes a minor thing.
Well, it has its place.
Its place.
And I think really I believe that that's the real issue of it. The ego is actually trying to find its appropriate place. No, seriously.
No, I agree.
Because when you have kind of like a small child, they make noise, or if they don't get positive attention, they'll settle for negative attention.
Yeah, acting out.
Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what your own ego does. I mean, you see that development in little ones to begin with. And that attention is very important. It's something that is so vital to us as human beings that we need that connection. And if that connection is satisfied if the input that they are receiving gives them enough to begin to explore their world, they come to a point of balance naturally.
Mm.
It's kind of like, how do you even describe this? It's like the sun shining down. If the plants and the trees get enough of it, they're fine. They make their own food. They continue to grow naturally.
Mm.
And a child is like that. The ego is one aspect of growth. It's not all the aspects that are growing inside the child. It is an aspect of growth.
Mm.
But it needs to be nourished just as much as anything else, just as the body, or just as the mind, and this is the heart. This is really the heart of it. It needs to be nourished. And what nourishes one's heart? That's always the question. It should be a question through every phase of development in the human soul. What is nourishing my heart right now? What is it that I need to feed myself with? And that helps maintain the calm. If your heart is becoming disturbed, it's time for your consciousness to pay attention to it and find out what is needed in this point in space and time.
Yeah.
What is needed now?
Right. And you do that if you're in a place of calm, if you're in a place of peace, you can perceive that easily. But even if you're in a place of trouble and all the other things that are talked about in the passage here, you can still choose to nourish that which is to be that which is necessary and important, and you said it before, find the place that you need to be in that moment.
It is responding to the call of the heart. Because when you are in connection with people, it's an interesting dynamic. In that byplay, whether it's 2 or 3 or a larger group of people, in that byplay, things can arise and there is a need that needs to be met for the working of the group or the dynamic of the group to come back to a harmonious, peaceful place. And your heart and your spirit need to be in harmony in order to bring forth the energy that's needed to come to balance for the group.
Yeah.
And it's not a personal thing. That's the point I'm trying to make. This is an inspiration or a grace that comes in, a love, a greater love than maybe that you happen to have at that point, can come in and fill you, and you see the fullness of this. You see where the trouble arose. You see what is the best way to bring it back into a whole balanced form again. And the energy and the words come in that point in space and time. And when you just give it, because you are willing to be the calm, still point in this maelstrom, it comes and flows from your heart to the rest. And you come back to balance.
And to balance this exact moment, we have come to the end of our hour. So I am Michael Lyons.
And I'm Margaret. And thank you for listening.